By now, you guys know the drill. Those of you who've been around long enough know how this works. And if you're a YouTube audience, then you know you can go fuck yourself while you're at it. Now, honestly, I think this is my most requested series from people wanting to see the name on the screen or something. I don't know what the fuck it is, but I've been mentioning this for a while. But when there's enough requests for something, usually I will come through depending on my schedule. So I've been mentioning this for a long time, but I'm going to be holding another question and answer session with a few new rules and changes up in this motherfucker. The first and most important change is that I have to limit this to 2 questions only. I know people are not going to like that I'm limiting this shit to 2 questions, but I learned my lesson last time. In the last question and answer session, I allowed people to send in up to 4 questions. I didn't say 4 questions per person. I said up to 4 questions, which means you could have sent in 1, 2, or 3 questions. Being told 4 is the limit. What did people do? They sent in 4 questions. Now, in the prior session, I ended up with 4 separate 20-minute videos. All the sessions before that only needed 3 videos apiece, so needless to say, the 4-question limit didn't work out as planned. So I want to condense that, considering people are starting to ask me more complex questions that require a bit more than a 2-word reply, which leads me to my next point. A few of you, you know who you are, would ask 3 questions in 1 sentence and call that 1 question. Now, here's a mathematical hint. If you notice there is more than 1 question mark in your sentence, chances are you asked me more than 1 fucking question. So even if you write down the numbers 1 through 4, and then you notice there were 11 question marks in your sentence, chances are, motherfucker, you did something wrong. You probably asked more than 4 fucking questions. No more of that shit. I only want to see 2 questions. Chances are, if you have more than 2 question marks, something went significantly wrong. Go back and do that shit again. Now, it's understandable if you need to set up the question with some sentences before that. But at the end of your writing, there better be only 1 damn question. Also, I'm not a mind reader, although I would love to have that superpower. So if y'all want to know what superpower I want, that's the one I want. But anyway, if you asked a generalized question, chances are you're going to get a generalized answer. For example, let's say you ask me, what do you think about drunk driving? And that's a very open-ended, generalized question. Chances are you're going to get a very limited response from me for something like, drunk driving is bad. Now, if you were to ask me, do you think that drunk driving laws should be stricter, or are they too strict now? Now, you narrow down the scope of your question to something more specific. You're more inclined to get an answer from me that you were looking for, as opposed to a general question in which I have no fucking idea what you're talking about. So then when I answer the question and it has nothing to do with what you asked, now you know why. Focus your question on something specific, and then I'll be able to return with a decent answer. Now, as this series rolls on, it's going to get harder and harder to monitor which questions were answered in the past and what videos were said and whatever, man. As much as I want to say there are no repeat questions, I understand it's not easy to remember or know what questions were repeated in the past. I don't expect people to go back and watch, what is it now, 10 videos, some of them like 15, 20 minutes, looking to see what questions people asked. However, there are going to be some obvious repeats, like my favorite game, what do you think about XYZ game, and all of that bullshit. So try to avoid those questions that might seem like a common one. If I answered something in my videos already, if I made a video on a certain topic, don't ask me that question. Don't waste your good questions. As for how to send your questions to me, do not post them in this video comment section. I'm not going to come back here looking for questions. So if you post them here in the comment section, I won't get them, and I'm not going to use them. I believe YouTube has a new messaging system or whatever the fuck, I don't know. You know, it allows people to send new messages through either Google Plus or something. Hey, you know what? I don't fucking pay attention to that shit. If you go to my channel, or you click on my name, there is an About section where you can send messages. It's not the discussion section because that's a public channel comments, but if you go to the About section, that's where the private messaging system is located now. In addition, people can send me questions on Prestige Gamers if they wish, and I will answer those as well. If you're signed up for the website, chances are you're going to be in the whole video where just Prestige Gamers questions are answered. Now, a few things to note. Do not send me PlayStation Network questions. Last time I accepted 1, and that was mainly out of technical issues that someone was having with both channels. But for the most part, send them through YouTube's messaging system, or go over to Prestige Gamers and send a private message to me there. That way, I can keep everything in one centralized location. I don't want to have to go looking for all questions. I'm not going to come back to this video. I'm not going to look in my channel comments section, and I'm not going to be taking PSN questions, mainly because I just delete PSN messages now. It's not to be mean, but the fact is the PlayStation 4 network still hasn't figured out what to do with PlayStation 3. So I get so many damn friend requests. I get so many invites for chats and people have no fucking idea who they are. So at this point, I'm just like, oh, fuck it, delete all this shit, man. I get like 30 messages a day. I just can't be bothered with that motherfucker. But anyway, man. I also know there are going to be some questions that people are bound to ask. So I'm going to ask these to get them out of the way. That way you don't feel like you lost out on a question. Again, remember, 2 good questions. So I'm going to help you guys answer some of the most common ones that people are most likely going to ask me. One of the most common questions, and I get this in almost every comment section of every video I post, when will I get a PlayStation 4? It will be before the release of Destiny in September. So I would say sometime around August or so in hopes of waiting long enough that I could get a decent bundle or something. Hey, look, man. I'm a cheap motherfucker. So if I can get a price reduction or I can get a good deal, that's what I'm going to get. If Best Buy makes me a deal that I can't refuse, then yeah, I'm going to be all over that shit like white on rice. But as of right now, I don't have a game that I want to play on PlayStation 4. So I can hold off on buying it until Destiny comes out. Will you buy Sledgehammer's Call of Duty game? I did a whole video on this, so you guys can go watch that. But the answer is absolutely not. I will not spend any money on that game. Are you going to do any more Mission Impossible, curse-free commentary, movie clips, etc., all the videos that I do? Now, part of the appeal of my content is that you guys are never able to tell what's coming next. You know, that way, when I do post some interesting shit, it's a surprise when you see it. Of course, I bring back all old types of shit, but I keep it a surprise so that you're not expecting it. If I'm doing a Mission Impossible every month, it kind of wears out the focus of it. If I do a curse-free commentary every month, that's also going to wear out. So I like to space out some of the ideas that I do so that when you do see them, you realize that it is a special video and that it was a specialty video that I only do every now and then. What do you think Game of the Year will be? Now, obviously, this is too early to tell, but I know some people are going to ask this question. But overall, this year seems like a down year for games, mainly because of the number of games that are already being pushed back and the ports from old generation to new generation. I mean, if I could pick the PlayStation 4 version of The Last of Us' Game of the Year, I probably would. You know, because that's probably better than some of the games that are being released this year. But since obviously that released last year on PlayStation 3, that wouldn't be eligible. However, I think this is going to be a 4-horse race this year, and this isn't going to be a consensus as to what the Game of the Year is going to be. I think Watch Dogs, Mario Kart, Shovel Knight, and Destiny are going to be your finalists for Game of the Year. And it all depends on Destiny's campaign and whatnot. But I have a feeling that a number of publications are going to choose between those 4 games. You know, you're going to see Destiny win some. You're going to see Shovel Knight win and be a surprise of the year. You're going to see Mario Kart, of course, win. Watch Dogs will probably get some just for being a brand new IP. But those are the 4 games that I think are going to be fighting it out for Game of the Year honors at different publications. Now, notice, I did not mention Titanfall. You almost have to disqualify it from the conversation from the half-assed story the game put together to explain why gigantic mechs are fighting each other in the first place. Which leads you to question, why was the story needed in the first place if this was literally just an online shooter game with no story? You know what I mean? The action seems exciting, but without a context to it, how could it even be placed in a Game of the Year conversation? You know, I wouldn't consider it at all, although I'm sure some publications would still do it. But if you're going to half-ass something, if you're going to show all this narrative that's happening in the background, yet it has absolutely no effect on your gameplay or the game, why put it in the game in the first place? To me, it was a waste of resources, and it showed that as all they wanted to have was an online game, they still wanted to have some context to it, and they couldn't even explain the context in something in a meaningful way. Which game do you think will be the top seller this year? Call of Duty. I mean, it doesn't matter how good or how bad the game is, it will be the top seller. Although, Ghost looks like it's going to fall short of the Black Ops 2 sales numbers, and it got off to such a slow start that people thought the game was going to fail. In the end, Ghost still sold 21 million copies so far, and a big part of that is the console generation cross-buy, where people could get it for cheap on the next consoles. Essentially, the game has gone on to sell very well, though revenue-wise it's not going to make nearly as much money as Black Ops 2, but people did go out and buy that game. So needless to say, people, as much as we don't like saying it, are still playing Call of Duty. With Advanced Warfare coming, I can see that as being a big seller again, although I don't see it surpassing the sales figures of Ghost, since most people are only going to get it with one console this time around. But there aren't too many likely contenders that are going to reach the 15 million units mark. I mean, the only 3 that I can think of, Battlefield can potentially hit 15 million in sales, Assassin's Creed, although I don't think Assassin's Creed will do it, and of course Destiny. Battlefield to me looks like an expansion pack. As much as they're saying it's not an expansion pack, to me it feels like an expansion pack. So I don't think that's going to sell 15 million units. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, which is one of the most highest rated games since Assassin's Creed 2, they didn't even sell 15 million. They got to 11 million. So if they're still coming up 4 million short, I can't even imagine they're going to try and challenge Call of Duty next year. So that pretty much leaves Destiny as the only game that has a chance of really catching Advanced Warfare when it comes to sales. And the thing is, it's a brand new franchise, which always takes time to build a fan base. With all the marketing in this game is fucking ridiculous. Oh man, the amount of money Activision, you're gonna get to it. Destiny is the only game I see challenging Advanced Warfare, and even then, it's not gonna top it in sales. We're not talking a Grand Theft Auto 5, which came from a storied franchise and developer. Destiny comes from a storied developer in Bungie, but science fiction is a hard selling point for games. If Destiny makes 15 million in sales, that would be huge for them. But I don't see them challenging a 20 million mark in sales, which is most likely what's going to be needed to top Call of Duty. I see Destiny hitting about 14 or 15 million in sales, while Advanced Warfare is probably going to hit 18 to 20 million or so. But anyways, now that I got all that shit out of the way, you guys are free to ask me anything you wish. 2 questions is your limit, so send me all your personal messages through inboxes or on Prestige Gamers. And as always, rate, comment, subscribe, and all that good shit. And I'll have these questions up for you in a few weeks after I finish going through them.